there are these nonprofit entities that organize, as the president mentioned, attacks on ICE officers, attacks on Border Patrol agents, organized doxing campaigns, which are a violation of federal law. They break off cement and they bring into riots. They have organized drop points for weapons, organized drop points for gas masks, organized drop points for all the materials necessary to launch a riot. And of course, you saw that during the Black Lives Matter riots as well, too. So there's this whole network of organizations. And I think the key point the president's been making is somebody is paying for all of this. This is not happening for free. And so under the president's direction, the attorney general is going to find out who is paying for it, and they will now be criminally liable for paying for violence.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller talking about the left-wing organizations under investigation, and this all coming after the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. Again, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson will be officially charged today, where we're going to learn more about some of the evidence authorities have gathered so far, while a motive is also starting to take shape. And joining us this morning to discuss is former FBI special agent in charge, Jody WICS. You know, we've talked about this so much, Jody, about that one part in that press conference where he said, allegedly on that Discord message, I need to go to this drop-off point for this particular weapon. Why haven't they identified yet who owns that rifle that was used?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that, Jan. Number one, they might be looking to see was someone else involved. We talk about that drop-off point. That hasn't been fully vetted out so far. So was someone else involved that actually owned the weapon and delivered it to Robinson? We don't know. The other factor could be if that gun has gone through multiple private sales. And by that, I mean, if I purchase a weapon through a federal firearms license dealer, that's going to be a matter of record. If I sell that firearm to you and then you sell it to someone else, those sales are not tracked down. The private sales won't be. So that can take a little bit longer. So that's one of those things we're going to have to wait and see. But I'm also concerned, when are the ballistics going to come out? Because that's very interesting to me. When are they going to tie the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk to that particular rifle? And I know ATF is working on that right now.
So the fact that it's taken this long, though, because it almost seems like we hear it just a couple of days after. This is who owned the weapon. This is where it was bought, and that has not come out yet. Is that suspicious to you? Does that tell you this could have been sold multiple times, that this is the reason why, or because there's a deeper investigation going on here?
I think it's a deeper investigation. We've been given a lot of information, which is really, that's not always that consistent with how the FBI normally operates. So I think there's some things that the investigators are holding back, and it might be there's another person involved, or it could be something that they're still tracing that. It doesn't matter so much in the prosecution of Robinson, but it's something that we all want to know, because there could be other individuals involved.
That's all that matters at this point. We're not talking about Robinson, because they could just come out and say he owns the gun. His parents own the gun. His roommate owns the gun. Somebody else owns the gun. But you're thinking this is because it's part of a deeper investigation. But would they have already come out if he owned the gun, or if his family owned the gun? Wouldn't they have already come out and said that?
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know if that's been definitively stated yet.
Okay, so they have DNA, they got fingerprints, they have this digital communication. They do not have a confession, which you say is not essential to this case, obviously. I have to ask you, though, about this boyfriend he lived with who is also transgender. Has he made some kind of deal for immunity, or could we hear charges against him as well?
Oh, excellent question. He has been very cooperative, and I'd like to think that he truly was aghast when he heard about this, and he's shocked, and he's want to cooperate and doing the right thing. Or he might have seen himself as having some level of culpability. But I would caution that young man, if he is made a deal, he better be 100% honest, because the first time he deviates from the truth, then he could be facing charges. But right now, we don't know. We just know that he is cooperating, which is a good thing.
What about the Discord app? What about the fact that there were potentially 20 other gamers on this app who had some kind of culpability, some kind of knowledge about what was going to happen, or who might have known about this? What about their culpability in all of this?
Well, Jen, remember that Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, it pretty much prevents these platforms from having any level of liability. And as far as I know, the Discord app has been cooperating with law enforcement. Dan Bongino explained this good last night. He actually said the key point to these conversations taking place on Discord, was it before the incident or after? If it's afterwards, that could be normal discussion that we've seen on X and a lot of other things. If it's beforehand, well, then that changes the equation drastically. Yeah, so that's what they're going to have to look at. When did these conversations take place?
And I understand that from the perspective of the actual platform itself. But what if you are on a platform and you have knowledge of this?
As an individual, if you have knowledge of this, it's like, do you want to come forward? Unless they can prove that you're a part of it. If I just know you're going to do something, it's hard to charge someone for having that knowledge. In fact, I would say it's nearly impossible. But if I'm working with you in as a conspirator or an accomplice, that's a different story. So again, those things are going to come out. We just have to be a little patient. We've gotten a lot of information so far, but there is definitely more to come.
We know that family members of this transgender boyfriend, report that they had cut ties with him. They did not want to be associated with him because they knew of his hatred for Christians, for conservative values, and everything about Charlie Kirk. How important do you think this will be when we look at a motive?
Well, Jan, I think that the boyfriend is going to be key to developing a motive. He is in the position to provide probably the greatest insight as to what was going through the head of Robinson. Now, you look at him, there's been a lot of, we'll look into his social media activity. He's been in the transgender community, he's been with the furry community, definitely anti-Christian, anti-conservative, but he is in a very good position to help identify what the motive of Robinson was for this horrible incident.
Meantime, there are these calls to ban guns from those who consider themselves transgender. Does that need to be addressed by law enforcement?
No, that's tricky. To ban guns just from a group of people like the transgender, first off, I don't know how you'd even do that. I've always been concerned about people taking psychotropic drugs. Should they own firearms? Should they have access to firearms? But how do you enforce that? With HIPAA and the other laws, nearly impossible. But what I would say is, I do think when you look at the transgender involved shootings recently, I think it's very important for law enforcement to start thinking about this in terms of their threat matrix and how they come up with their intel assessments. If someone is making threats and they're transgender, I think that probably needs to get a greater level of scrutiny than someone who is not in that field. But it definitely, I think, can come into a threat matrix consideration for law enforcement, because we're just seeing far too many of these incidents right now that we did not see several years ago.
All right. Former FBI Special Agent in Charge, Jody WICS, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on the National News Desk. Take care.
Thank you, Jan.